Are you ready for this? Are you ready?
No?
Exactly. Are you ready for this? Are you ready for the science, everybody?
I was watching 90s music videos last night. It was very reminiscent.
90s. I mean, come on. We could like throw a 90s science rave.
Yeah.
For sure.
I don't like to consider that a throwback era yet. Even though it was 30 years ago.
Yeah. We're not going to talk about that.
And people were wearing like bell bottoms, which is a throwback to a different.
It was a throwback to a previous
it was a callback.
30 years. Okay, we are going to talk about science now.
Yeah, I have some good science.
Yeah, we've got science. We want to talk about it. We want to have fun together talking about science as we do and being thankful that we get to share this TWIS-Giving night with our friends, our sciencey friends. And yes, Gord McLeod, 30 years ago, also known as 5 minutes ago. Yes, that's all it was. Are we ready for a show? I think we're ready.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Yep. We're ready. Okay. So let us begin this live TWIS broadcast of the TWIS podcast, where everything is live and nothing is edited until later when it becomes edited for the podcast. So the podcast is a little shorter and flows a little better.
Yeah, this is the version that's got all the cursing in
it. No cursing. We're family friendly no matter what, except for those few occasions where slippages.
Blair.
I think maybe one was my fault in the history of this show.
I think we've all got one or two.
I think we all have one or two over.
Not more than that. Really not more than that.
Yeah, no. And it's usually just in the after show.
I also think it's often the guest who doesn't know that we don't swear.
That's usually it. Or the guest can't control themselves.
Yeah, they get really excited about the science and profanity just spews forth.
Scientific profanities. All right, everybody. We are ready. I hope you're ready because it's time to begin the show.
You're ready for this?
Stop.
Over and over again. It's like Groundhog Day.
Sorry. Okay, I'll stop.
That's not even. You're not even close to the melody of the thing that comes after that.
How dare you?
It's not even close.
What is it, Justin?
It's like some sort of jazz band interpretation.
I mean, you're not wrong.
You have to be marching.
You all ready for this?
See, then Blair is doing something completely different. I don't even know, Blair, you've got the wrong music.
This is a science podcast, everyone. It really is. Starting in 3, 2. This is TWIS. This Week in Science, episode number 852, recorded on Wednesday, November 24th, 2021. It's TWIS-Giving 2021. Hey, everyone. I'm Dr. Kiki, and tonight on the show, we will fill your head with babies, bees, and birds. But first...
Disclaimer. Thanksgiving. That one day out of the year where Americans pause to give thanks for all the good things in their lives. Thanks for health and family, and thanks for that giant turkey on the table, which likely had a diet of 95% corn, as do most livestock of any sort. Foods like corn, potatoes, and tomatoes originated in the Americas. But they weren't just discovered, they were created, cultivated over thousands of years by observant Native American farmers in multi-generational breeding efforts and well-engineered irrigated farms, which turned what was basically a grass into corn, the most consumed grain in the world. And it turned a pitiful proto-tomato the size of a blueberry into the most consumed fruit and or vegetable in the world. And the potato, domesticated and cultivated back some 10,000 years ago in the Andes, is the world's 4th most produced food. While we give thanks to this or that, we should remember Native Americans didn't just feed a party of starving pilgrims a few hundred years ago. They are feeding the entire world now, today, through the food technology that was developed before modern Europeans even stepped foot into Europe. And while native peoples have suffered cultural annihilation, destruction of sacred lands, religious conversions, theft, kidnapping, rape, child abuse, institutional murder, enslavement, germ warfare, and genocide on 2 continents, the rest of the world has become better nourished and should give thanks. But as Americans especially, it should be a day where you simply acknowledge the people whose food you are eating, whose land you occupy, and whose children you and your children have replaced. In the spirit of experiment, innovation, and discovery that the ancient Americans used to create the food of the future we all enjoy today, we bring you This Week in Science. Coming up next.
I've got the kind of mind that can't get enough. I want to learn everything. I want to fill it all up with new discoveries that happen every day of the week. There's only one place to go to find the knowledge I seek. I want to know what's happening. What's happening? What's happening this week in science? What's happening? What's happening? What's happening this week in science?
Good science to you, Kiki and Blair.
What was that? I didn't even hear you there.
What?
What?
I said some good science, Kiki and Blair. What's going on?
Well, there we go. We're getting started with our TWIS-Giving show. Welcome, everyone, for another episode of This Week in Science. We're here to give thanks, to talk about science, to enjoy some time discussing science together. And yeah, we would like to say thank you and acknowledge the lands on which we are broadcasting from across the United States, here on the West Coast of the United States. I'm in Portland, Oregon. Blair is in San Francisco area of California. Well, I guess, Justin, you're over in Denmark right now, so that
Yeah.
doesn't really work in the same way.
You're absolved. I'm on Aloni Ramatush land. I
Because
will
the
say.
Danes never took land from anybody, as has been proven historically. That
Yeah.
never took place.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
if
we
you-
are in the traditional village sites of the Multnomah, Cathlamet, Clackamas, Tualatin, Kalapuya, and many other First Nations, indigenous tribes, bands of the Chinook, the tribes who made their homes along the Columbia River. And I think that is an important thing to note.
Yeah,
can
if
look-
you don't know what native lands you are currently living on in the United States, or this is native-land.ca. You can look at kind of the different areas in the I think it's all of North America. You can figure out based on your zip code what areas historically that you are currently living on. It's interesting. There's lots of good resources there.
And
That
you
is
should-
interesting. A good
and if
resource.
you should start making your mortgage payment to that tribe instead of to the bank. You've been
Instead of to
sending
the
it
bank.
ridiculously. Yeah.
That would make people a bit happier. But we're going to move on to the science. We have a good show full of science for you today. I have stories. I brought some. I really, really did. I have stories about space efforts, carbon storage, mind reading, and divorce in birds.
Okay.
Not in people, in birds. Justin, what'd you bring?
I've got baby jokes. Missing link found. Finally, they found the missing link. Something to do with the prognostications of the COP26 summit. And just good news, facial recognition edition.
Just good news. Okay.
Oh, and then some story about a deep sea mammoth. just came across.
Deep sea diving mammoths. They must have had a very long trunk. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Blair, what's in the animal corner?
Oh, well, I have spit swapping ants and meat eating bees. And then I also, just for fun at the top in the quick stories, I have a quick story about touching your face. Don't do it. Latest place not to. And also stereotypes in STEM.
Stereotypes in STEM.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The human animal we will investigate.
Indeed.
Yeah. All right, everyone. As we dive into the show, I do want to remind you that if you have not yet subscribed, you can find us all places that podcasts are found. Look for This Week in Science. We're also on Facebook, on Twitch. We are on YouTube. We are on Instagram and Twitter. Some places you find us as TWIS Science, but you can always find us at our website, TWIS, TWIS.org, twis.org. It's time for the science. Who wants to talk about space?
Yeah.
Let's do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Last week, Blair and I had this wonderful conversation. Blair wanted to discuss the naming of the James Webb Space Telescope and why we're calling different things by people names. Why not? Why don't we stop doing that? But anyway, I've got another James Webb story this week. If you hadn't heard already, the James Webb Space Telescope had an incident this last week.
A good incident?
No, it has pushed their launch date back from December 18th to the 22nd.
Oh, okay. That's
So-
only 4 days. All right.
It's only 4 days. They because they need to investigate what has happened. A clamp band slipped, popped off, and this clamp band is basically a clamp that secures the telescope to the launch vehicle adapter. Basically attaches it to the launch vehicle so that it can get into space and get to where it needs to go. But the declamping of the clamp caused a vibration throughout the telescope, and they don't know how severe the vibration was and whether it damaged any aspects of this incredibly sensitive multi-billion-dollar piece of space equipment. So they're taking some time to investigate what has happened. They say it's going fairly quickly. They're ahead of schedule so far. But yeah, this is just one more incident in a long line of incidents when it comes to this space telescope. And please, please, can we just launch it and get it to space? And it has 300 points at which things can go wrong as it unfolds. 300 different possible places things can just go nope. Once it gets all the way out to the L2 location where it will be sitting in space to view the universe in infrared.
Okay, so that's what if one of these 300 things goes wrong, it just won't work, right? It's not like something else worse will happen. Like if it fails earlier in the process, it'll plummet back to Earth or something.
No, it's like, once it has to launch, then it gets out of away from Earth, and then it'll get out to L2, and once it's located there, a lot of other things happen. But yeah, there are a lot of places where things can go wrong, and I just keep going back to my understanding of NASA engineers as always planning for the worst.
Yeah.
With lots of backups, lots of contingency plans. And I'm just really hoping that all of those NASA engineers who have worked on very amazing spacecraft that have made their way to Mars and other places and worked very, very well. Just please. I don't want to. Yeah, there are a lot of people worried about this one.
Yeah, and I'm with Blair about the naming of things. Like James Webb's not even an astronomer.
No,
he's not even. He's not
a politician. We talked about it. Yep.
Is he even a politician? I think it was just.
Yeah, he's a politician.
Okay, I thought he was an unelected bureaucrat, but okay.
No, he's in the Senate.
All right.
Yeah,
but yeah, maybe name it after a scientist next time. Not that this is going to be,
Don't name it after a scientist. Name it Prosperity or Curiosity or
no, we have different
Rainbows and Unicorns. I don't care.
Oh, I would love a spacecraft called Rainbows and Unicorns.
Yeah.
That would be great. I'd really, really like that. Okay.
Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. There's
in-
lots of good ones.
In other pretty positive outlook news, we have a little craft that could. It really makes me think of the story of the little engine that could. The DART mission, it has made its way, launched on a Falcon 9 rocket from Southern California last night. This DART mission has started its voyage to an asteroid where it will be attempting to collide with a small moonlet that's called
Moonlet.
Didymos. The asteroid is Dimorphos is the moonlet, Didymos is the asteroid. And this is a mission to see if we can really act out the movie Armageddon in real life. Then they
Good.
did invite Bruce Willis to the launch of the DART mission, but as far as I know, he was not in attendance. But the move
seems dumb.
The idea is we need to protect our planet from potential bombardment by asteroids that could be planet killers. How are we going to do that? And one idea is that we could impact them. Can we change their trajectories? Not blow them up, because usually they're going to be very large. It's going to take a lot to get to them to the point where we can blast them into little pieces of rubble small enough that they would burn up in our atmosphere. But if we could move their trajectory, could we get away from being impacted? So this is a test. They actually have been working at getting funding from Congress to make this possible over many years, and have now gotten upwards of $150 million to work on this project, and we'll see where it goes in the future. Yeah,
Also,
will we?
breaking them up is not a completely bad idea. Also, I think it's not like you just end up with more things that are going to, be landing in more places. It doesn't quite work. The math is a little different on that. Especially, it depends on the angle the thing is coming in. If you break it up so that the angles are all different a little bit from those, the smaller particles have a better chance of breaking up, no matter.
Chance.
Yeah.
Smaller is better.
Better chance.
Smaller is better.
It's unlikely, but the percentage is not 0.
No.
That's the problem.
The percentage is not 0, no. But okay, this DART, we can look forward to reporting on this next September or October when it does reach Didymos and hopefully strikes Dimorphos. And the interaction is really interesting. This is a 700-kilogram spacecraft, and on the feed last night, someone said it's about the mass of a small cow, trying to impact a body that measures about 170 meters across at 6.6 kilometers per second. Can it alter the trajectory of the moonlet?
Can it
Time will tell.
Can it alter the trajectory of space garbage is what I want to know.
Right. Oh, goodness. There's a whole nother story about that. Somebody is positing that if we get enough space garbage out there, we might be able to get rings. Wouldn't that be awesome?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Trash
Rings. Then we'd really be the...
You have to wait a while for the rings to form.
Oh, man.
But still, yeah.
I'm not excited about that.
That'd be the that one house with trash out in front of it at the end of the block. Where's that planet?
Yep.
This is.
I mean, the homeowners association is really going to come after us one of these days.
I think Gord, you're a writer, aren't you? Somebody needs to write this scenario where a private startup space agency company develops this technology, and then we're going to be able to move this asteroid that's coming in, but it's not going to be like a miss. We can just kind of direct it a little bit towards where it's going to land, and then they get funding from all the countries that don't want to get hit by it. Sure. I think there's a great story in there where like a true Dr. Evil scenario where it's coming down. You want to be on the list? You want to be in the probable zone, or do you not want to be in the probable zone? That's how the funding, next round of our startup is going to be determined.
Justin, you get to tell a story next.
Oh, it's my turn.
What do you
Okay,
wanna
let's
talk
go
about?
right into the good news. This
Go
is
right into
the
good
Just
news.
Good News story of the week. Facial recognition edition. Lie detection just got a whole lot better. This is researchers from Tel Aviv University created a new and improved lie detector that works by tracking contractions within facial muscles. So far, they've been able to catch lies 73% of the time, which it's not perfect yet, but it is then, by that number, it is the best lie detecting system ever created. The older system that we used, you've seen it in the movies. They got the thing, they're checking pulse rates while answering questions, was so scientifically and operationally flawed that it put innocent people behind bars for years and is now completely inadmissible in courts as evidence. It just doesn't work. Too many human factors. But this, the researchers identified two different groups of lying tells that people seem to have. There was one group, they could detect their lies because it would activate cheek muscles, would sort of react differently ahead of telling a lie. And there was another group that had activation not at all in the cheeks, but they'd get it in the eyebrows. So it's sort of also interesting how you've got these somewhere, but there's like a whole much more research that needs to be done, but somewhere way deep within the brain is activating either cheek muscle or eyebrow muscle for different liars. And so there's a whole thing there, right? But they had these super sensitive stickers with electrodes in them that were tracking facial movements and these sort of little micro contractions, and recorded the correlation between the lies told and specific regions being activated. Now, these are pretty straightforward lies. They would get an audio that said, up or down, say. And so they said the opposite of what they heard. And that's how they could tell it was a lie, because the researchers could, see what was lies and what wasn't. It wasn't just people sort of telling stories about the fish they caught or whatever. So again, this isn't a real world test, but it is the first round of it. They say, though, that in the very near future, this technology could be digitized to allow a simple AI to use video images of a speaker to determine if they're telling the truth or not. Not just in a clinical context then, right? But then you're talking about video of anyone speaking at any time when you have enough definition. So not only then can you maybe watch a speech in real-time video and have like a sort of truth meter that shows up next to the speaker, but you could go back through archival footage potentially, right? You could go back and watch this show right now and see if I'm lying. Yeah, I mean, you could then. That's the insane thing about this, is that it could be
it doesn't matter where or
used.
when. It's just
right.
look at the face.
You could then use it on court footage from cases that have come through years. Like you could go through an archive of any video and see if people are lying, which is just insane. So this has great potential for detecting deception in real life context, criminal investigations. Banks could use it when you're applying for a loan to see if you're being straightforward about all the details you've offered them. Your software on your phone could use it as a password security system. So you might look like you, but is that really you? And it could see if you're lying or not. Political speeches, job interviews, spousal interrogations.
Okay.
You could go do
Claire's like, that's a step too far.
pre-record it, you
No,
could do therapy.
I have concerns though, Justin. I feel like this could be similarly fallible to the lie detector in that we need studies to see what happens to your eyebrows and your cheeks when you're uncomfortable, when you are nervous, when you are hot, when you are cold, when you're excited, when you're bored.
Vowing loyalty to a regime.
It's all of it. Passionate. This is the problem with lie detectors, right? Some people are really good liars, so you can't tell at all. Some people are just nervous, and so they have all of the signs of lies happening through the lie detector. We don't have the research yet of exactly what happens to your face at every other moment of your life when you're not lying.
And I
Well,
think that's going to
but
be
that
one
was
of the
part
big
of
points, though, is that people who are professional liars, people who are sociopaths
Yeah.
who lie with no problems whatsoever. It's not going to show. Those are people are going to skate by. Again,
maybe.
lie
So
detector tests are
we
80 to
don't know that.
90% accurate ish. And this is in the 70 so percent,
Wait a second, though. Wait a
73%.
second. Lie detectors are not that accurate. They've been proven that it like depends on the intonation of the question asked. It depends on all of those factors that you've laid out do affect a pulse rate type thing. So here's the thing. This is if you've trained for a lie detector and any of the previous ones, this one you're not trained for. You don't even know you're making these facial changes at this point. But people
But
might
it's
be
not
able to train
accurate.
for
It's
it.
like 3 out of 4 dentists, it's not like it's not like 99.9% accuracy like we want our COVID rapid tests to be, right?
Yeah,
We
the
need
thing
it
that
to be more accurate before we can
of course.
count on it without further data.
Oh, of course. I'm not. It's not here yet. This is the
But
preliminary.
it's also scary. I don't want
But
it
it's
to be here.
That's the thing. You don't want a lie detector.
It's
Right.
you don't want to be able to read people's minds for the same reason. You don't want to be able to notice, oh, their eyebrows moved when they said it was nice to see me. Oh my God, that person hates me. Like, you don't want that information.
This is Professor Levy, who was involved with the study, says, since this was an initial study, the lie itself was very simple. There were participants, by the way, who on the other side were watching people tell the lie and trying to determine if they were. They couldn't tell on this test because it was such an easy, no stakes lie. They're just saying the word, whatever. They couldn't pick up any differentiation. Levy goes on, usually when we lie in real life, we tell a longer tale, which includes both deceptive and truthful components. In our study, we had the advantage of knowing what the participants heard through the headsets and therefore
Right.
also knowing when they were lying. Thus, using advanced machine learning techniques, we trained our program to identify lies based on signals coming from these electrodes. So it's not perfect, but better than any existing technology. And the other thing that they found interesting is that people lie through different facial muscles, some with their cheeks, others with their eyebrows. And as they expand this, they may find more tells that are in their well. But it would be fascinating to find out that even the psychopath who's trained the vocal intonations, or you're saying the professional liar, who's trained their vocal intonations and their word choices to seem always to be the most sincere at any given moment, but have all of the tells for the AI. If that was still there, that'd be fascinating. And then the only people who could lie with ease would probably be mimes. Right? People.
Mimes. They're like, here's a
always
door. I'm walking through it. Oh, there's no door there.
What a liar.
Mimes. Oh, the wall.
Somebody really good at facial gesturing or something, or like be able to make it through the thing.
Oh, man.
Finally, mime school is paying off.
Finally. All right. Moving on from school, Blair, what do you have for us next?
Oh yeah, well, with all that talk of faces, I have a research paper out of University of Nottingham saying that drivers touch their face a lot. They touch their face about 26 times an hour on average. And that is a concern because they are potentially spreading germs and infection, especially if hand washing is inadequate. They looked at 31 hours of archive footage obtained from 2 on-road driving studies documenting 36 experienced drivers. And with little or no conscious self-awareness, they were observed touching on or around their face, again, about 26 times an hour. But each touch lasted about 4 seconds. It was a long touch. The face itself was touched the most, about 80%, then hair about 10%, neck about 8%, shoulders about 2%. In 42.5% of occasions, they made contact with mucous membranes, inner linings of the lips, nostrils, eyes. Approximately every 5 minutes,
that
fingertips
means people
and
are sitting in
thumbs.
their cars.
Listen, don't tell me you haven't picked your nose in your car. Okay? Everyone's done it. But this is the point. So yeah, so
cars are our homes on the road,
Yeah.
and they're dirty. Is that what
yes,
the point
they're
is?
very dirty. That is the point. So a lot of the time they were using fingertips or thumbs, which are also the areas most frequently missed in hand washing. Hopefully, post-COVID, people have learned how to wash their hands now, but I feel like everyone's forgotten already. This was controlled across genders and ages, so everybody's touching their face the same amount. So this is especially an issue with car share vehicles in a pool, at a workplace. That means you could be entering a car that somebody else used. So this is the other thing I'm taking from this: spray down the car when you get in. If you have a car that somebody else drives. And so this is the thing that's, speaking of like dystopian future, we were just talking about with Justin, they had suggestions
Wait,
what
that
to do
was a
about
good
this.
news story. That was the just good
No,
news
that
story.
was
It wasn't
dystopian future for sure. But they were talking about what we can do with this information. So the first is that if you have a car in a pool, be aware that shared car is probably gross, and also try not to make it more gross. They also wanted to say that potentially touchless surfaces in a car would be good. I think that's silly. But the thing that's really crazy is they also suggested the potential for driver monitoring systems, which could detect fatigue and distraction already by eye blink rate, head nodding, but now could also be developed and deployed to detect, predict, and stop inadvertent face touching. So imagine driving a car and the car going, "Stop touching your face." Like, I think I would get in an accident. But yeah, so they had all these ideas for how to keep people from touching their faces in cars. Just wash your hands and spray down the car when you get in. That's what I say.
So here's
Spray
a quick
down the
question
car.
for
Spray.
everybody to answer in their head at home, and I'm going to ask out loud to the two of you.
Okay.
Are you washing your hands the same way you did at the beginning of the pandemic?
Yes.
Oh, like the 20-second rule?
20-second rule, but I was like I am prepping for surgery.
Oh yeah.
I was like,
no, I'm not
just
doing it as thoroughly as I was at the beginning of the pandemic.
Now I'm just back to just,
Although I am like, I never really used to do this, the in between the fingers. I do that now.
Go
I get
in
my
between the
thumbs really
fingers.
well,
You got to get, I do all of it.
but I doubt I'm doing 20 seconds every time.
I sing what? The alphabet song
Or happy
twice through and you'll be
birthday, or-
good. That's right.
You can't do it on the air though.
Nope. No, we cannot.
We can't even show people how to do it with that. Who picked that song that we can't even?
But we can tell people what areas of the earth should be conserved so that we don't dump 139 billion or 139 gigatons of carbon into the atmosphere.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you know what we need to do? We need to conserve the really, really, really crucial carbon sinks. Permafrost, the researchers who have just published a paper in Nature Sustainability, they say, permafrost, it's melting, but nobody's really going to build on it because it's melting and there's sinkholes and all that kind of stuff. So it's not really a problem. It's not great agricultural land at this point either. But the things that they are worried about are old forests, mangrove forests, areas where you have vegetal growth that's been happening on the order of centuries. That their report, they call it irrecoverable carbon, where if it were to be released into the atmosphere through burning because of for agriculture, for land clearing, for housing, for human development, the carbon would go into the atmosphere and be there for centuries, and it would take a lot longer. It would take centuries to grow those sinks back again, and it would put us way over the 1.5 degrees Celsius limit that we have been trying to look for not having our climate change as much as it's looking like it's going to. So pretty much the places that we want to be protecting are carbon-rich areas in very specific areas. The Pacific Northwest, the Amazon, the Congo Basin, and Borneo are very specific areas that they name because of the trees and the density of growth that has been in those areas. So the basic recommendation is, look, these are places that we should protect because they are great stores of carbon. If we destroy them, that carbon is going to end up in the atmosphere. That's bad. So why don't we put efforts toward protecting them? It's pretty
you're
pretty
saying
easy
we
message.
should save rainforests and old growth. I think this is a very good idea.
It's a great idea. And
Speaking
in
of
the
a throwback to the 90s, save the rainforests.
yeah, save the rainforests. Yeah. And in the process, as it's a hey, save them not to put carbon into the atmosphere, carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. It's also going to feed back and protect ecosystems and save animals, save these very old, diverse places where lots of animals and organisms live. Plants.
And can I just say, throw out a thing, since it is the day that we're doing the show and all that? One of the best strategies I've heard for actually being able to achieve that is, wherever possible, turning that land over to the indigenous people that once maintained it. Because as we've seen, whenever a government entity protects a land and an administration changes, it can just unprotect the land, just like that. If you actually turn it over, at least in the United States and South America, turned it back over, the land back over to the people who managed it for tens of thousands of years, it'll be fine. They'll preserve it. They'll watch out for it.
It'll be taken care of. Right. Sustainable land use and management. It could work, everyone. Justin, you have another story?
Yeah. Know any good baby jokes?
No, not ones that I can tell.
Okay, I'm gonna really quick. I gotta go. Okay, why are babies born?
Why?
They run out of womb.
Very good.
Know what temperature babies are when they're born?
What?
Womb temp. How many babies can a person have at once? And as many as they have womb for. And what do you call a newborn baby on the day that it's born? Whatever you want. It doesn't have a name yet.
Oh, okay. Have a name. Okay.
It happens every day all over the world. Folks of every kind, people are having babies. And no matter how prepared you might think you are for having a baby, chances are there are one or more things you forgot to have ready before you bring the cherished little human home. Even if you had it at home. You've got diapers and wipes, check. You have a place for the baby to sleep, a soft blanket to swaddle them in, a wardrobe full of clothes for the baby to grow out of in just a few weeks.
Yeah.
Toys and bedtime books to keep the mind stimulated as time goes by. Maybe you even submitted their application to a preschool despite it being many, many years away. Or prearranged marriage for a neighbor's kid that's 3 months old already. However you prepare. Yes, a proud parent, you've done all the preparing, you're getting ready, but you still missed something. Do you know any good baby jokes? And these are not jokes about babies like I was telling, but jokes that make babies laugh.
Yeah, that's what I did. Peekaboo.
Yeah. Peekaboo.
Peekaboo.
The keys.
This is University of Bristol researchers conducted a study with around 700 children from ages birth to 4 years old from different parts of the world. And they published this in Behavior Research Methods. It identifies the earliest age humor emerges and how it typically may build in the first years of life. So they had this survey that they sent out to these 700-ish parents, UK, US, Australia, and Canada. And it was just a quick 5-minute survey that they would go back to check their child's development. Team found the earliest reported age that some children appreciated humor was 1 month old. 50% of the children were appreciating humor by 2 months. 50% were producing their own jokes by the time they were 11 months old. And the team also showed that once children produced humor, they did it often.
It's
worked on
addictive,
their
isn't it?
act. They
Yeah.
worked on their stand-up, like before they could actually even stand up. Half of children having joked, usually within the 3 hours that the surveys were being administered. After the children survey, the team identified 21 different types of humor that was going on. And a lot of it was age-related. So children under 1 year of age appreciated physical, visual, auditory forms of humor. That's your peekaboo, the keys, funny faces, things like
Blowing on their face.
Yeah, blowing
Yeah.
your face, eating their toes.
Yeah, funny voices, noises, and they also really liked misusing objects. So like, here's the
banana phone.
Here's the cup. Oh, yep, yeah, banana phone. Oh, that's a kid. I still laugh at banana phone.
I love banana phone.
Flip phone is a good one also.
Oh, that's a good one too. Oh, that's great.
And then once they got into the 1 year old range and above, they started getting into humor that involved getting a reaction from somebody. So that was showing people their butts, trying to scare people, making potty jokes, and then doing acting like something else. So they would act like they were an animal.
Oh, sure.
Right? Or something like this. 2-year-olds became a little bit more advanced. They started to reflect on some language humor, getting into puns and nonsense words, and then stuff like, old MacDonald had a farm. E-I-E-I-O. And on his farm, he had some cows. E-I-O, with a meow meow here and a meow meow. Wait, no, that's wrong. It's just moo, not meow. Right, stuff like this, right? And they started getting more aggressive with the humor too. They were starting to show the mean streak, like trying to trip people.
Slapping things out of your hands, probably.
Trying to see the physical comedy on, 3-year-olds liked to try to say naughty words and try to play tricks on people and do the puns. So as I developed, of course, humor. But one of the things that this, I think, study shows also is that's not a thing that I really have seen in a whole lot of literature. Like how to stimulate your child by reading to them, how to get them interested in early math,
the art, the reading, how
to work on your toddler's
intellectual development, not comedic.
Exactly. How to get your kids type 5 ready so they can go before an audience. How to deal with a heckler by age 2. Like you need a whole like
prop comedy for toddlers.
It's not just for Carrot Top. Yeah. They need to. So somebody needs to write this book. I'm again putting you on you, Gord. You got to write the book, Children Comedy Handbook. How to.
I think it's on you, Justin.
How to amaze your friends by age 3.
By age 3. I love that. I think it's interesting also thinking about the different kinds of humor that kids start developing by certain times and how that lines up with brain development and what allows it. So by 1 month, the eyes are developed enough that they're starting to be able to focus on things so that they can, if you get your face close enough, they can see your face, they can hear your voice. They're starting to be able to discern more colors. So it's like, how does the visual system, the auditory system, the cognitive awareness, how does all that play into what they find funny and when, and also when they start making their own jokes?
Yeah, I was amazed because I do recall my youngest daughter at 6 months was playing peekaboo in reverse. I don't even think she was 6 months. She was like, but she would lift her blanket up and make us disappear and laugh and then come back and be like, you're back. And then make us disappear again.
She's like, you don't need to do object impermanence. I can do object impermanence.
I can make you go away.
You can make you go. And that's funny.
That's scary a little bit. She's like, you don't even understand. I have the power to make you go away.
Yeah. She liked it too. Oh, she loved the humor. Speaking of other baby science, babies can change people's behavior. Apparently that baby smell, when you smell the top of a newborn baby's head, it contains a molecule that affects the way that people interact with other people. So researchers publishing in Science Advances, they looked at a molecule called hexadecanal, or hex, and it is emitted from babies' heads. And we can't really smell it per se, but it's in the mix of the
Oh,
baby
you
smell.
can though. I use
But you can
baby's head smell as
Right.
amazing.
But hexadecanol on itself, it doesn't smell like anything, but it's mixed in with the baby thing. So
Yeah.
we're identifying it somehow. So I'm not, we're identifying something.
The baby's emitting
It
a
look-
smell independently to make you sniff it, probably.
Not
I
to
would
make you
guess.
sniff it. No. The
Oh.
baby is emitting a molecule that makes mothers more aggressive and reduces the aggressiveness of fathers.
What?
Oh,
And looking at
yeah.
the brain, it impacts these social interaction circuits in the male and female brains differently. So it's like a dial down control for men and a dial up control for women. Like,
That
hey,
makes
mom or lady,
absolute sense.
sniff my head and then protect me. And for a guy, it's like, hey, don't eat me. You know?
Don't be
so
a
I'll
polar
tell
bear,
you,
please.
that is the most relaxed scenario I've ever been in, is holding a little bambanini, and it's just like, boom, and the opposite I may have noticed too.
It's a weird
What to say.
compulsion to smell a baby's head. You can't control it.
No, you want
is
to smell
something
the
that
baby's head.
I
You
had
want
never
it
been
to-
around babies growing up. Several of my friends had babies in the last couple of years. And every time a baby is handed to me, it's like, it's a reflex. You go, you can't help it. It just,
I will smell your
everything
head.
about everything in my body is making that happen. I can't stop it.
That's so fascinating. Yeah. So anyway, we have identified, it's not a pheromone per se, but we've identified a molecule that is emitted by the heads of babies that changes adult behavior, and it's
So-
sex dependent as well. So it's
So-
really, really fascinating.
So now
Babies.
So is this
The
is
ultimate
this a thing?
manipulator.
Is this a thing that we vaporize into like problem prisons of the world, or
Yes.
crowd
Yes.
control? This becomes a crowd
Men's
control
prisons.
sense.
Yes.
Although I guess if it's having the more aggressive effect on the women, then we got to be careful when we use it.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
Where and when will we use the hex? How will we put a hex on people? Don't eat the baby. Don't eat the baby. Blair, do you want to talk about some STEM gender problems?
Yeah. To no one's surprise, University of Houston has found out that there is a preconception about boys and girls and STEM. Perception that boys are more interested than girls in computer science and engineering starts as young as 6 years old, which is likely one of the reasons that girls are underrepresented in STEM career fields. They looked at 2,500 students in 1st through 12th grade from diverse racial and socioeconomic backgrounds. They were combined with laboratory experiments to provide important insights on how those stereotypes impact motivation. 63% of students believe girls were less interested in engineering than boys. 9% believe girls were more interested than boys. Computer science, 51% thought girls had less interest, while 14% thought girls had more interest. Women make up nearly half the workforce, but in actuality, they make up 25% of computer scientists and 15% of engineers. And so the other thing they did, the laboratory experiment, was they gave children a choice between computer science activities. Girls, about 35%, chose computer science activities that they believed boys were more interested in, but 65% of girls chose an activity which they believed boys and girls were equally interested in. So this isn't just that it's coming from above, that no, this is for boys and this is for girls. It's because they have that preconceived notion from a young age that girls steer clear. So of course, this is why specific maker groups and STEM groups aimed at girls are so important, because you have to break that misconception. You can try to take care of it before they reach 6 years old, but that is difficult because that means the second they're going into school, pretty much, they're starting to get this narrative. So
Yeah.
educators, parents, policymakers, they can help close those gender gaps by introducing girls to high-quality computer science and engineering activities ASAP in elementary school before the stereotypes take root. So they still will be exposed to those stereotypes, but you can maybe uproot them and disrupt them before they take too much of a hold to impact their future choices.
There are all sorts of games for young kids to teach early coding skills, to teach engineering skills. You can start as early as big Lego bricks that will help get
Duplos. I love them.
Duplos can get into building, and then you get the Duplos, and then you get into the Goldie blocks, and the Goldie block systems are specifically targeted at girls and engineering and computer science, and they have engineering challenges, and there are all sorts of programs that are out there. But yeah, I think this is a really interesting study because it really highlights how early it starts.
That's what this study is about.
just-
This isn't new information generally, except for the
No.
fact that it starts so young.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think there's also an overlap that is possible, because having had the children of both inclination of gender at the early age, they are attracted to different things. One of my favorite things that came along in time for my girls was the Lego Friends stuff, which I don't know if you've seen, but they're very girl oriented subject matters, and to an extent, you got trying, but you can,
shops and kitchens and
little
things, but
pet
it's still
store
things,
and a cupcake
pet
store
stores,
and everything.
but it's still
However,
things they build.
but it's Lego, exactly. So
Yeah.
they've got to engineer it together. So I think this is one of those things where we may also still be failing to realize that it is both. You can do the engineering and still have that really girly interest. If that's the thing that you're attracted to, you can put them both together.
Yeah.
I think gendering toys is a mistake. I think it's totally a mistake. I think
But
that you can
Yeah,
say
but-
that girls generally prefer a particular type of toy, but I think that packaging Legos in pink or blue packaging is a mistake. This is a problem I had from a very young age. I kept getting the pink Lego sets that were ice cream shops and horses.
But we know
and
that
shops.
pink used to be a boy color, and it's in color. Cultural ideas about color have changed over time, and they will shift again with time. And so the gendering of it is not necessary in terms of color is not necessarily the problem. But what Justin is getting at is that if you have, from a young age, if you give a child the option of a truck or a bulldozer or a doll, and they make the choice of what they want, and they make the choices if they're given the choices, you can accept their choices but still give them opportunity in the engineering or the building or the making. So it's still gendered to it's what they want. It's not that it's gendered per se, but if they like dolls, they like dolls. If they like pets, they like pets. If they like rocket ships, that's what they like. But you have to give them the opportunities to do all the things, no matter what.
But I think I'm gonna say I think that there's still some subconscious gendering happening there, in that the blue Legos are the spaceships and the city Legos and the submarine Legos, and the pink boxes are the shop and the horses. And so there is still a push. That right there is a push towards a particular career for boys and a particular career for girls. And habitually, those sets, the blue sets, have boy minifigures in them, and the pink sets have girl minifigures in them. They're getting better at them. Lego is trying really hard.
Lego's gone away from
as
the
an
pink
example. They have like the not NASA women and women of science Lego sets, and that's great. And I think they've kind of moved away from that, but there's still lots of toys that are pushed that way. And in order
For
to
sure.
be a girls' engineering set, they have to be pink and they have to make an ice cream shop. And I think that it's happening less, but I still think it is happening. And even then, if you're looking at certain types of toys to play with, you're subconsciously, there can be signals about career choices.
I tried giving my child plain wooden blocks, just wood. I was like, here's a chunk of tree, child. He went for other things.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
No, and I'm saying
he loved garbage trucks and
letting
bulldozers.
children
I didn't do that.
choose-
He did that.
that's still, you're totally right. Letting
Yeah.
children choose is totally the right choice. I'm just saying, I think that there are moments
Yeah.
where it would be good to take a skeptical eye to the packaging and the marketing of
Always.
toys to make sure that there isn't subconscious or subliminal signaling about who that toy is for.
Yeah.
That's all.
And I don't think that's such a big deal. If in doing so, you hook them into engineering something, of actually doing the problem solving, because to me, that's like the more important thing. Like,
Yeah, just
gender
getting them
issues
into
stuff,
yeah.
role stuff, the expectation is almost a different level of problem that needs to be solved.
It's
getting
directly
kids-
related to this, though. It's directly related to career expectations for genders.
I don't know. I mean, I do agree to an extent, because I had a lot of, what were they? The cowboy Playmobil set that I loved. That was like my favorite thing as a kid. And you're right. I did expect when I grew up, I was going to be a cowboy. And so, and I found that, being out there on a horse, following cows around all day is maybe not the best fit.
Yeah.
For me.
I really wish that we could read their minds, though. That would be awesome. Just
Yes.
like we can now read the minds of worms.
What?
Yes.
Do we know what they're saying about us?
No, we don't know what they're saying about us, unfortunately. But the C. elegans worms, it has 302 neurons. Very, very tiny brain, which makes it easy to monitor all the neurons and go, what are these neurons doing? Versus a human brain or even a mouse brain. It's a lot more neurons there, so you can't get the resolution that you want. A team from the Salk Institute published in PLOS Computational Biology about their work giving scents. Buttered popcorn, almond, banana, cheese, and salt, basically wafting the chemical odors over the worms, and then looking to see what happened to the neurons. But instead of just looking at the sensory neurons that were involved, of the sense of the odor, scenting it, they also looked at which neurons were activated downstream. So they used what they called graph theory, which involves looking at the collective interactions between different pairs of cells. And they were able to monitor what was happening and then use machine learning to find out what different groups of neurons were doing when different scents came by. And so, for example, they exposed C. elegans to sodium chloride, and there was a burst of activity in one area and then a burst of activity in another. And this sensing of salt was really important because salt usually indicates bacteria, which the worms like to eat. So this is a very important scent to the worms. And so they're able to figure out that, oh, this is what this scent is doing, and these neurons are involved for this versus this. So now they can basically waft a scent over the worms and go, look at the neurons. We can read the minds of the worms to know what they're doing or want to do at any point in time. And of course, the eventual goal is to move this from worms to humans, but that's going to take a very long time.
A little bit, just a little bit.
A little bit of time.
Just as long as it takes to get the James Webb Space Telescope up, no big
Yes.
deal. Just a few months.
Just a couple years. I mean, maybe just a couple more years after that too. Maybe just
No
okay.
big deal.
No big deal. Yeah. But it's exciting. We can read worms' minds. This is This Week in Science. Don't you wish you could read our minds right now? Do you know what I'm thinking? I'm thinking I'm very thankful that you're here with us tonight. Thank you
Aw.
for being here. If you do like the show, tell a friend today. All right, let's do a COVID update. Boo. Okay, COVID update. The wave. The surge is coming. The surge is coming. It is. We've got increases in the number of cases of COVID-19 ahead of the holidays. The Midwest is experiencing a high surge right now. The UK, Europe are experiencing massive surges. The Northeast of the United States. We have the country's daily average of new cases jumping 29% over the last 2 weeks. Daily case average is nearing 94,000. And there are certain areas that are experiencing very rapid increases in cases. And most of this is a result of people not being boosted yet. CDC has authorized boosters for all adults who are at least 6 months past their first vaccine or their first series of vaccinations for COVID-19. So boosters are available now. You can get your immunity level, your antibody level back up to a point where you will be very well protected. This is coming also in hand with a lot of areas removing restrictions for masking and social distancing and other things. But here we are coming to the holidays. So please, please, please take good care. Test before travel, before arriving to visit family. If you can booster, I mean, I know it's late for Thanksgiving at this point in time, but get boosted. Wear a mask if you're going to be around a lot of people that you don't know, that you haven't planned ahead for. But if you are vaccinated and boosted and everyone else is, then the CDC and others are saying, have a great Thanksgiving.
So this is the thing I think that I was just talking to Brian about this before the show started. So yes, cases are surging really bad. Mainly it's unvaccinated people.
Yes.
The breakthrough infections of the vaccinated.
Still very low percentage.
Still very low, and also overwhelmingly not ending up in the hospital.
Yes.
Is the thing that I think. So it's important to recognize, okay, so if you have a breakthrough case, you can potentially get an unvaccinated person sick. So that's not good. It's much less likely than if you weren't vaccinated at all, but it's still possible, of course. But the thing that I think is so important to keep in mind is that it's bad, but it's not like last winter. It's not like panic and run around with your hair on fire time, because if you're vaccinated, you have an extremely less likely chance of ending up in the hospital, which I think is really important to say.
That is a massive importance. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right there. Yeah, vaccinated people by far, yeah. In areas where there is high vaccination, there are higher percentages of vaccinated people ending up in the hospital because it's a law of numbers and statistics. Right. So if a certain percentage of breakthrough cases are happening all over, there's going to be a larger number of people in areas where there are more vaccinated because it's just a higher number of the total population.
Yeah, there's some state back east coast where it's like there is like 40% of the people who've got COVID cases were vaccinated people. And it's like, oh gosh, then it's not working. Yeah, but that state area has got like 94% vaccination, which means that 6% of the population that's not vaccinated accounts for 60% of the cases. Yeah. But if you just be like 40%,
that's how numbers work.
That's how numbers work. And so as we start to look at like high number percentage of people who are vaccinated who get this, it's because most everybody is vaccinated in most places. And so it's that tiny percentage of people who are doing the bulk of the work, and also are the vast majority of the deaths. In some places, the entirety of the deaths are coming from the unvaccinated community, as you're saying, because they're the ones ending up still on the ventilators. Like for them, nothing is, if you're unvaccinated, nothing has changed from the beginning of this pandemic till now, except that you're more likely to get it than you were at the beginning.
Because you're free to go out and get it.
You're free to go get it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's more aggressive now.
I also wonder if there's a funny bias of the numbers where if you're a responsible person and you got vaccinated, are you also more likely to get tested regularly and therefore more likely to show up with a positive case, even if you're asymptomatic, and add to the number?
Possibly, yeah.
That's that's an interesting point. But remember, as you come into this Thanksgiving holiday and the Christmas holidays, there's layered levels of protection. Even if you don't want to, if you're boosted, everyone else is boosted, you're all in a nice family setting. If you have a portable HEPA air filter that you can put in the room where everyone's going to be sitting and eating together, that's going to do a massive job of cleaning the air and keeping everybody safe. So air filtration, airflow, masks, distancing, there's all different parts, including vaccination, different layers of defense and risk reduction. And that's what we need to think about.
Yeah. And remember the main vector of this, which we have to point out, the
air.
Thing which transmits. No, it's not the air. It's other humans.
Other people. Yes.
So the more time you can spend away from other humans for the next, say, 2 or 3 years, the better.
Better. And as we were talking about percentages, right now there's kids cases of COVID-19 are spiking. They're now making up 25% of all cases. There are 22 kids make up 22% of the total population of the United States. Kids vaccines are available now. We can get our kids vaccinated, and that will help us move forward and reduce the rates of kids getting COVID, because we still really don't know the long-term effects of COVID-19, as long COVID is a big issue. And there have been hundreds of, I think 25,000 kids have been in the hospital for COVID-19, and over 600 kids have died. And
I just can't wait for the history books where they try to explain
why we let everyone die with for a disease that was treatable and preventable.
I mean, overall that, but also specifically with the kids, because when this first popped up, kids predominantly were not affected. We shut the schools to protect the adults around the children.
Mm-hmm.
Then the variant came along that infected children. We opened up the schools because the adults were protected.
Yes.
And then we're just like,
to the fodder,
no,
children.
The children are getting sick.
What?
I don't. It's history's
the logic.
Gonna look upon the decisions that were made. Oh boy, I can't wait for the history books.
So,
oh my God,
there will be so many writings.
Yeah, it's like the ship is sinking, but we think the life rafts are too dangerous for kids, so we're gonna leave them on the boat.
Yeah, absolutely.
There.
Also, we got in the life raft, so it's fine. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, we're fine. All right. Be sure to. No, you'll be fine. Yeah, kids can't drown. It's just a thing. Science told us, or something. Yeah. Bye.
All good. Bye.
What the heck were the priorities there? History is gonna look bad when you look back at some of this stuff. You're right.
Yeah.
But in a looking forward, hopefully kind of way, we can be excited possibly about a new peptide vaccine. A vaccine called COVAC-1 is a peptide-based vaccine candidate. That means that it's made up of little chunks of protein that are derived from antigens within the SARS-CoV-2 virus. And these little chunks of protein, these little antigen copies are delivered in such a way as to induce T cell responses and hopefully long-term immunity. And the interest here for the COVAC-1 virus is for people who are who have immunodeficiencies, who are undergoing cancer treatment, individuals for whom antibody responses are a problem. And by vaccinating with the intent of driving up the T cell response, it then can potentially not, it won't reduce the sickness, because the antibody response is what like really responds in the first place to the virus, but it will reduce the very severe disease, hospitalization, and death that would occur otherwise with COVID-19 for this population of people who have immune deficiencies. So,
Yeah,
and the other,
I think
and it seems to work against all the variants of SARS-CoV-2 that they tested it against. And additionally, it's T cells, so it could be long-term immunity and not just 6 months.
yeah, the scary thing about COVID isn't getting a virus; it's about dying from it. So if you just get that part eliminated, I think we'll be okay.
Yeah. Could be something, it's just something to look forward to. We always want to have something positive in here in this COVID update. Think positively, everyone. The endemic is coming. The endemic is coming.
It already came.
This is This Week in Science. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode. We hope that you are enjoying the show so far. If you are, please head over to twis.org and click on the frog to purchase your 2022 TWIS calendar. Blair has done a lot of amazing work on these Blair's Animal Corner 2022 TWIS calendars. And what did you say, Blair? They are single line drawings.
They certainly
So-
are, yes.
Wow.
Yeah, so she put down the pen and she drew, and animals emerged.
Yes.
And they could be on your wall, on your desk, somewhere in your life.
Yes,
Get one for
very-
yourself.
Very, very Hirschfeld.
Yeah, get one for a
inspired.
friend. They make great
Yeah.
gifts. I'm going to be sending them out very soon.
And
As
I
they
recently
arrive.
discovered, the calendar system in Europe is the same that we use in the United States. So these calendars actually could be utilized internationally.
International calendars, because they follow years as well. In other places, got years all over the place. But we thank you for your support, and we do hope that you have a wonderful Thanksgiving. It's time now for Blair's Animal Corner with Blair.
With Blair?
She loves our creatures, great and small. Biped, millipede, no pet at all. If you want to hear about animals, she's your girl. Except for giant pandas and squirrels. And I'm
What you got, Blair?
I have vulture bees.
What? Vulture
Did-
bees.
Did you know that some bees eat meat?
Wait, hornets, wasps, visps.
No, bees.
No.
Wait,
Yes.
but how about like this
They
problem
go
with
to
like
the flowers.
they're gonna be like reverse pandas then, right? They got the wrong.
Ooh, very interesting point. Just wait till you hear this story. So this is a tropical bee, colloquially known as vulture bees. They've evolved an extra tooth for biting flesh,
What?
and they have a specialized gut to eat meat. This is a species of stingless bees. Say that 5 times fast. Stingless bee, and has evolved the ability to eat meat, most likely due to an intense competition for nectar. So there just weren't enough flowers to go around. They had to start eaten meat.
Wait, you
Uh,
said the bees
But
have a
this got
tooth.
Tooth.
yes.
What are you talking about?
I
Bees don't have
Yeah, it's
tooths.
like a mandible. It just helps them break stuff off. But they have this ability to eat meat, which their gut bacteria is not supposed to be able to do that. So it's very interesting that you brought that up, Justin, because it's just like the pandas. But before I talk about the gut microbiome, I have to tell you about one other thing that they have on their body because it made me giggle. So stingless bees normally have baskets on their hind legs for collecting pollen, of course. However, they
Wouldn't need it.
observed when they put out chicken meat bait traps for these bees, they got a good look at these bees up close and they observed carry-on feeding bees using the same structures, but to collect the food. They had what Quinn McFrederick, a UC Riverside entomologist, called little chicken baskets
What?
on their legs. Anyway, moving aside from the pure joy that sentence gave me, they wanted to compare nectar feeding bees to these vulture bees that feed exclusively on meat, and also a particular type of stingless bee that eats meat and nectar. So then they were able to compare the microbiome of these three different types of diets across bees. They found the most extreme changes among the exclusive meat feeders, and the microbiome in the meat eaters, the exclusive meat eaters, more closely resembled that of vultures, the birds.
Wow.
Vultures.
Yeah. So honeybees, bumblebees, and stingless bees traditionally all have guts that are colonized by the same 5 core microbes. Humans, our guts can change a little bit with every meal, but most bee species have retained these same bacteria over 80 million years of evolution. So, of course, these scientists wanted to see if their microbiome was the same. They went to Costa Rica, they had their baits of chicken, and they smeared petroleum jelly on them to deter ants, which is an interesting note. And so they were able to sequence the microbiome of all of these guys, and they found that the vulture bee microbiome was enriched in acid-loving bacteria, which is something that all of their relatives don't have and are similar to what you find in actual vultures, hyenas, and other carrion feeders. The expectation there is that because it's acid-loving bacteria, they can build up more stomach acid. It helps protect them from pathogens that show up on raw meat. If we ate raw chicken, we would get very sick for many reasons, and it's mostly due to the bacteria present that our stomach cannot break down. One of the bacteria present in the vulture bees is lactobacillus, which is in a lot of our fermented food, like my sourdough on my counter right now. They were also found to have carnobacterium, which is associated with flesh digestion. I will also mention, I was like, oh, stingless bees, that's cool. Nope. They can't sting, but they're not defenseless. They actually can be quite unpleasant. Stingless bees, some of them have nothing, but many of them bite, and many of them produce blister-causing secretions in their jaws, which causes the skin to erupt in painful sores.
Youch.
So they're not without an arsenal. They're still bees. And also, interestingly, their honey is still consumable by humans and still sweet and delicious.
Oh, they still make honey?
Yes.
Is that because
Of
they're
course
not
they do, right?
obligate? They're not obligate carnivores, and they do pollinate. Is that part of it?
No, they only eat meat.
Then how?
What?
What?
Yeah.
How are they making the honey out of it?
So they store the meat in separate chambers that are sealed
It's
off.
not meat honey.
It's not meat honey. The meat is separate in the hive from the honey. And then so they store the honey completely separately. So they still are digesting the meat and barfing up honey, but so it is meat honey still. It's
I always forget honey is
it's bee
is
barf.
bee barf. It's bee vomit.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not just the pollen.
Yeah.
No. They've
So
eaten the pollen and then they've barfed it back up. So,
Yeah.
so this is technically
Bee honey.
meat
so
barf.
if somebody's allergic to
It's
chicken,
it's bee meat barf.
Great question. Also, would I be okay to eat this? Considering I avoid meat.
non-vegetarian honey.
Yeah.
This is really
This is
non-vegetarian
This-
honey. Like
this
there are
isn't even
people
the
who
point
are
of the
mad at
story, but it's
Yeah.
Anyway, there's a little information for you on vulture bees and the fact that their gut bacteria is completely different from the rest of bees and like vultures and hyenas. So there you go.
Wow. That's fascinating. I mean, nature just has it all. If there's something that you have not yet imagined, it's out there and we just have to find it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then there's also the fun historical question, like what came first, the change in
Right.
diet, or what like somehow
evolutionary
there
question.
became this
How did they
microbial
seed that microbiome? Yes.
Yeah.
Great question.
Yeah.
I bet it's in that honey now.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway,
Interesting.
okay, so that's them. Moving from that gross meat-eating bee story to ants that walk up to each other and say, "Hey, let me spit in your mouth real quick."
Oh, Blair, what have you done?
Ant colonies use fluids passed mouth to mouth to create a colony-wide metabolism.
It's very smart.
Yes, so these ants, these social insect colonies function in a similar way to a single organism made up of many individuals. And for that reason, scientists study ants a lot to gain insight into how complex biological systems like the human body function. Individual ants in that colony have two stomachs, one for digesting food and another before that, which is their social stomach. They store fluids there and they share those fluids with other ants in their colony. They allow them to share food and other important proteins that they themselves produce. This is a study from the Laboratory of Social Fluids at the Department of Biology, University of Freiburg, Switzerland. Oh, yes, I work at the Laboratory of Social Fluids. They explored whether the proteins they exchange are linked to an individual's role in the colony or the colony's life cycle. And they analyzed all of the ant-produced proteins found in social stomachs of those ants and compared how those proteins varied depending on their job, if they were a forager or a nurse, caring for the colony's young. The members, they also compared it across ages, how old the colony was or how new it was. They found that members of more mature ant colonies had more nutrient storage proteins necessary for growth and metamorphosis of young. But newly founded ant colonies had a much lower amount of storage proteins. Nurse ants, they also found nurse ants that cared for young in their colony had more anti-aging proteins in their stomachs, which means that colony members were pooling those life-extending proteins to the nurses. They were saying, here, you want some anti-aging proteins? You're welcome.
Okay.
And so they were spitting these proteins that they create to the nurse ants to pool life-extending proteins in them to ensure that their survival was ensured to look after the next generation. So they wanted to make sure at all costs that the nurses survived to take care of the babies.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah. So they find
isn't that what we did with the vaccines? We gave it to all
I was gonna say before that we did the opposite, but yeah, you're right. Once the vaccines happen, for sure. Yeah. They also show that the big kind of breaking news here is that colony members can do metabolic labor for the benefit of others. So their metabolism is creating these proteins and they are able to give them to other members of the colony. So the idea is you could use this to look at how metabolic work is shared between cells in a similar way. Ants pass things around in a way that they can easily access what they need to share. and having a better understanding of how that works in a colony, in a social colony, could show how metabolic labor learns inside of somebody like a human to distribute metabolic tasks between tissues or cells in the body. So first of all, just very interesting that ants can have a joint metabolism and metabolize proteins and give them to each other, which I love. But also this idea that colonies are a sample organism for actual organisms is pretty wild, and I love it.
Yeah. That's
very
pretty rad.
cool. Yeah.
But of course, doing callbacks to your previous stories, humans are doing this all the time, apparently, by touching things.
That's seeding the microbiome, right? But that's not helping with a metabolism.
Kissing. There's obvious kissing and stuff like this that takes place, or families who are constantly touching the same stuff, or sitting on couches, or we use public transit. So we're sort of not intentionally maybe doing this activity. You have to be maybe much more intentional as an ant.
But see, Justin,
I don't think it's intentional enough.
When you're touching a pole in a subway station, you might be seeding your microbiome. But that's not what this is. This is a metabolic process creating proteins that is then being donated to another organism or another cell. So this is a whole extra step. That's like if it's more akin to breastfeeding.
That's what I was thinking.
You're
making something.
Yeah, you're creating a product that you're sharing with another organism or another cell or another tissue, right? So imagine that happening at a colony level.
That's wild.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like they're their own little farms for proteins individually, and
but I mean, this kind of harkens back to the idea of ants as a colony and the colony as a single organism, and not the ants not necessarily as individuals, but as more complex aspects, I guess, communication organelles within the larger organism. And if you look at it that way, it makes sense, because then it's just keeping the organism healthy.
Right. But then when you take it back to the colony level, it's wild, because I'm going to give up my life extending proteins to another individual. That's wild.
But you don't need all of them, Blair.
No, I need them all. Give them all to me.
Why? Why do we need to extend these lives of ours?
I want to be a head in a jar. End of story.
What if there was a better alternative? Just saying.
Yeah, I'd take a better alternative.
You're just going straight to that one. That's the preferred outcome.
Listen, how many years did it take us to launch this telescope? It's not even launched yet. What really is going to happen in my lifetime? I'll be lucky if I get a head in a jar. That's all I'm saying.
Maybe you'll become, I don't know, a slave to a super intelligent AI. I don't know. It's possible.
As long as I'm having fun.
You could be so lucky.
Well, at least we now know what that jar is going to be filled with.
Spit?
Ant spit.
Oh, yeah.
Ant spit. Yes. Oh, yeah. That's awesome. We've got fermented meat, vomit, honey, and we've got ant spit.
Happy Thanksgiving! Hope you're listening to this while you're cooking on Thanksgiving Day. Enjoy!
Blair's really helping
You're
our
so
appetites.
welcome. I'm just, I'm preventing you from overeating. That's all I'm doing.
This is This Week in Science. Thank you once again for joining us for this episode. We hope that you are enjoying this show. Justin, what you got?
The missing link.
You do?
It has been found.
Oh.
The missing link. Well, one of the many, many, many missing links that have been being revealed over the years. This is a pretty big one, though. This is an international team of scientists from 17 institutions. They have announced the discovery of a 2 million-year-old fossil vertebrae from an Australopithecus sediba, lumbar vertebrae from the lower back, portions of other vertebrae from that same individual found in Malapa, South Africa, together with some previously discovered vertebrae samples, are now giving scientists the most complete picture to date of early hominid lower back construction. The fossils were discovered in 2015 during excavations of a mining trackway that was running next to a site of Malapa in the Cradle of Humankind World Heritage Site. So they might need to expand the borders of the World Heritage Site past where the mine is. Although maybe not, because the miners there obviously are on the lookout because that's where this was discovered. Malapa is also the site where in 2008 Professor Lee Berger from the University of Witwatersrand discovered the first remains of what became then the new species of ancient human, Australopithecus sediba. So this is a relatively speaking new player in human ancestry. And also technically it wasn't discovered by Lee, but his 9-year-old at the time son Matthew actually made the find. And his father's like, it's good. Yeah, you probably found a bovine bone, but I'm going to encourage the kid. I'll go look at this thing. He's just, what? Whole new hominin discovery. Well done, kid. Way to be observant. Okay, so then, so the fossils have been dated to approximately 2 million years before present. And they're kind of stuck in a cement-like rock. It looked like it was going to be really hard to get it out of the breccia, this thick rock. So instead, they did a CT scan at the University of Witwatersrand, and so they could see the thing in complete detail without having to chip away at it. They put that into a modeling system, combined it with some of the other lumbar vertebrae they had found at other sites that were sort of disparate. And what they ended up with was the best picture of a spine of an Australopithecus sediba that was seen. And this is according to Professor Scott Williams, New York University, lead author of the paper. The lumbar region is critical to understanding the nature of bipedalism in our earliest ancestors and to understanding how well adapted they were to walking on two legs. Associated series of lumbar vertebrae are extraordinarily rare in the human fossil record, or the hominin fossil record, with really only 3 comparable lower spines being known for the whole of early African record. With the complete spine, they were able to model this, and it looks like it's got a nice curve to the spine, observed only in the 1.6 million year old Turkana boy, Homo erectus, which is much later. And some modern humans have this kind of curvature as well. The spine is now showing the signs of a bipedal walker, which is fantastic. That's amazing. That's 2 million year old bipedal Australopithecus.
Right, and which we've questioned whether or not this Australopithecus was bipedal. We have thought that maybe it walks like an ape.
Yeah, because the other known features that we've had a much better look at in sediba has been the upper body, which is a very powerful upper body torso and is well suited for climbing in trees. So the mixed adaptations across the skeleton of sediba now show is some sort of transitional or multifunctional nature of this being to be able to walk very much like a human and climb like a damn dirty ape. So we have the closest thing that actually lived on the planet to Planet of the Apes, I guess.
And you said missing link is, a touchy term, but it is a bit because even though we've known about Australopithecus, I cannot say these old names. Even though we've known about this hominid for a long time, suddenly we're putting pieces together and going, oh, the walking and the climbing. We had it all. This was the beginning of the things.
Now you just have to find the missing link in between this and the one before, and then the missing link in between that, and then the.
Well, it does
on the braided stream. Yes.
And the braided, as the braided stream goes, this then has enough similarity and again, a lot of detail needs to get filled in, but has enough detail of the spine now to say this could be a modern human Neanderthal ancestor, as opposed to a far-flung branch of that braided stream. This brings it very much closer to the modern human than anything we've seen before in lower spine. So
Cool.
really, this again, we all got to give it up to
Way to go, kid.
9-year-old Matthew.
Yeah.
Way to pay attention to what your pops is doing
Nice
and go
work.
out there and make a groundbreaking discovery. And second to last story of the night I got here is leading up to the COP26 summit. The UN said existing policies would see Earth's average surface temperature rise a catastrophic 2.7 degrees Celsius
Too much.
above the pre-industrial levels. So they needed the national leaders to scramble to appear to be doing something about it, make the pledges, make some actions, try to get much closer to that Paris Agreement of trying not to pass the 1.5 degrees Celsius of warming. According to a new study that was actually written by several contributors to the UN report on climate change, it is suggesting that UN reports on climate change may be painting too rosy of a picture. This is from the first author, Ida Sognaise, senior scientist at Cicero Climate Research Center in Oslo. The false precision to climate outcomes given during COP26 may lead countries to believe they are making good progress, when the opposite may be true. So at issue is the method that is being used to connect the dots to set the climate policies in the first place to the end of century temperatures so that people can make the right choices on how to even approach this. So interestingly, most projections are based on a model that will start with the desired outcome. So they're starting with a cap on global warming of 1.5 to 2 degrees Celsius. So they say that's the acceptable increase. And then they work backwards from there to see what policy levers need to be pulled or toggled in order to get there. So in a way, it's almost admitting a little bit of defeat and saying, we're going to have to give up some ground going forward. But here's the levers that need to get pulled to get us there. So this is called backcasting approach. Experts adjust variables such as coal use, renewable energy, deforestation, reforestation, all sorts of things, agriculture and like, to hit the end of century target. Then they go around to the countries, try to get them to sign up to meet those goals and to then pull those levers so that they can achieve that. In the new study, research looked at the same data and the same policy pledges, but instead of backcasting it with the UN's if we, could we, will we, would we, should we data scenarios, the group forecasted where all of the newly agreed upon policy proposals of today that have been agreed upon now after this COP26, where that would actually lead us. That's seven different climate modeling groups using this technique to assess how all the voluntary pledges, if kept 100%, would play out by the year 2100. Their estimates published in Nature Climate Change had a pretty big range. They went from 2.2 degrees Celsius to 2.9 degrees Celsius, which is sort of already in line with some of the goals and worst case scenarios that the UN figures were putting out. So that's a very mixed bag of information. At 2.2 degrees Celsius, you missed the target of 1.5, but hey, you tried, right? You got somewhat close, and climate change is still really a severe issue by the end of the century, and really bad things happen because of it, but it's better. You tried. You got some ground accomplished. You held off some of the ill effects. The end of this, though, is a hellscape of endless droughts, intense storms, depleted water reservoirs, rising floodwaters, crop failures, collapsed food webs, submerging threats to most coastal cities, which will need to take on a more subaquatic theme.
Yeah.
That's the one.
Yeah. But I think that the study is interesting because it doesn't pit what we're normally used to seeing, which is worst case scenarios. And, if we do nothing, drill, baby, drill, smoke them if you got them, hell in a bucket, but at least we're going to enjoy the ride for the next 100 years. Versus the other scenarios, the optimistically aggressive scenario where action is taken and checks every box of what we're capable of doing to prevent the negative outcome. And here's what is possible. And it just looks at what we've already agreed to and that range of outcomes from where, if we do what we say we're going to do, this is the range of outcomes. And it's still not
great.
No.
It's not great. We are not meeting the needs, and it was a lot of hand waving, and the meeting was a big disappointment to a lot of scientists and environmentalists out there, because the economists and the politicians are not willing to take the big leaps that need to be taken. And
so hold them accountable, everyone.
Yeah.
Hold them accountable.
Yep.
Demand it.
I want to have many more good Thanksgivings. Good TWIS-Giving episodes.
Yeah.
I do. Let's have many good, happy ones. Not sad, awful, climate change, disturbed ones.
Forget all that for a moment.
Whatever.
Just put it out of your mind. Just put it out of your mind.
Okay, close it away. Put it away.
Put it out of your mind. Just ignore all the danger.
Yes,
And I'm going to finish with a fun little quick story. They discovered a 3-foot-long mammoth tusk off the coast of California at a depth of about 10,000 feet.
Who dropped it?
Yeah. Well, occasionally stuff just, I guess, wanders into the ocean.
Yeah.
But having done so, it was very well preserved. This is 10,000 feet. You have a lot of high pressure. You have a very cold temperature. They think this is the best preserved tusk that they have in their collection now.
Interesting.
They think it is a young female Colombian mammoth, which was a sort of hybrid of 2 other types of mammoth, and possibly one that lived during the lower Paleolithic era, which spanned anywhere from 200,000 years ago back to 2.7 million years ago. So this could be an very ancient, or it could be a very, 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 very ancient tusk. And they expect that they're going to be able to get really good DNA from it.
Really? They don't think that the salt water would have encroached and done damage? Because that, I would think, would have really affected it.
They think it is going to be, and I should say
you don't know until you try.
Well, and I've overspoken this a little bit, or under reported a little. They've extracted a bunch of DNA from it.
So they do have DNA. All right.
Yes. They got it thinking that they would be able to, and then they did. Now that's the part that we still have to see, is how much coverage this actually is, and how. But they think they've got a really good quality sample that they can now use to bring back the Colombian mammoth of California.
So I think the big question here, though, is like how did they find a mammoth tusk? They're like, somebody's diving. There's just there's a submarine. How?
Yes.
Yeah, good question.
How did this happen?
So this is from our friends at the Monterey Aquarium. Yeah. This is our group that's been going out there looking at the squid formations, all the fun stuff. Have been exploring the seafloor out there off the coast of Monterey.
The containers from the container ships.
Yeah, and this thing, kind of looked like it kind of looked like a log, but was sort of missing any, nodular sort of branchings, misformations, a little too smooth. And so initially they tried to pick it up, and part of it broke off, and they went back and got the rest of it. And yeah, now they have it in the collection and have been doing DNA testing on it. But that's such an amazing thing. Like, I would never have thought to go look 10,000 feet into the water because if this thing is hundreds of thousands of years old, millions of years old, it also means that we might be able to find other stuff. There might be all kinds of dinosaurs. There might be a tremendous collection of things that wandered into the ocean. Or
yeah, well,
came
there's
down
going
to
to be there's going to be stuff that is close to shore because
they
of
usually will
sea
find
level
stuff.
rise
Yes.
changes, right?
Yeah.
But then there's going to be stuff potentially further out that is carried out from washed out from massive rivers or from giant floods
Mhm.
or from, and then once it gets in there, ocean currents, how could they have been carried? And yeah, really interesting. But it's just a happenstance. They're just down there looking for other things on the bottom of the seafloor, and they found a mammoth tusk.
Yeah, and hopefully water wasn't. JG, water was lower back then. Yeah, hopefully it wasn't 10,000 feet lower.
No, that's quite a lot.
But
Yeah.
but the geological time scales, California is a very plate tectonically active environment. So it's not a surge area though; it's a shear thing over there. But yeah, that's all. There's like, who knows? I don't know enough about the geology off the coast of Monterey to tell you, but
There's a lot going on, especially Monterey Bay and outwards. There's a lot going on geologically and current wise.
I put it there.
You put it there.
Blair! Oh, come on.
Dun, dun, dun.
It was supposed to be an April Fool's joke, but it took you so long to find it.
I know what it was. You found it and you were like, oh, they could probably get DNA out of this and then bring back the mammoth. And you're like, no, go into the ocean.
I like tiptoed and went,
I thought I'd hidden it forever.
just tossed it.
All right. This is This Week in Science. I have a couple of stories before we end the show. You know what? Seabirds, they're not turkeys.
True.
No, they're not turkeys.
That is true.
Seabirds really, really like to pair for life, or at least for as long as the breeding season is. They're very monogamous. It allows a certain amount of consistency and accentuates reproductive possibilities of reproductive success, especially if one partner is staying on the nest and the other is going out foraging for food and bringing it back. And if you find a good partner, it's like, I'm going to keep this partner. So
but for a season, because it's a very loose definition of monogamy. Yeah, we're monogamous for now.
Right. So the bird monogamy is this very interesting thing where it's like they could be monogamous for one season and rear 1 to 2 clutches of chicks together, or they can be monogamous for much longer periods of time. Albatrosses are famous for being monogamous for life. Many seabirds who do spend lots of time out over open ocean are monogamous for multiple breeding seasons. So divorce doesn't happen very often. Once they meet their mate, that's it. They're like, this is it. We're gonna be together. And if they are going to break up, that breakup doesn't usually happen unless they've really not succeeded at reproducing. They tried, they weren't able to reproduce, and maybe the female's like, okay, I'm out. I can't do this. Or if they had the chicks hatched, but they didn't live very long, they didn't survive, same kind of thing. It's like, okay, I'm done. Gonna go find another mate.
It's your fault.
But it doesn't happen very often. And some researchers just published a paper on a number of species that they looked at, and this study looked at why kind of these seabird couples split up. And in the study, they found that out of the multiple species that they looked at, it was only one species that had a high divorce rate, and it was the kittiwakes. Kittiwakes have a high divorce rate of about 20%. And so in the kittiwake populations, they about 20% of the couples do split up, but it's very likely if a couple loses an egg or a young chick. the other birds, they couldn't even assess, and this was petrels and other birds that they looked at. They couldn't even assess their divorce rate because there were no divorces. It just didn't happen. It had such a low level. So for these birds that they looked at, 4 out of the 5 species, they had 1.9%, 3.3%, 2.5%, and 0%. And this is for Brunix guillemot, glaucous gull, Antarctic petrel, and South Polar skua. And the kittiwake was at about 19.1, so near 20%. If the kittiwakes were able to raise their young past 15 days of age, they had a success, they're more likely to stay together. So the point here is that they're emphasizing that there are some really interesting temporal variations that need to be taken into account in understanding partner fidelity in seabirds. And that goes into the next study. There's another study about albatrosses that was also just published in the Proceedings of the Royal Society B. And in the study of these albatrosses, knowing that albatrosses rarely divorce in the wild, these birds stick together for life. They wanted to determine if it was just the offspring death rate or the reproduction failure rate that would lead to their divorces, or if it was a bigger environmental issue, whether environmental stress actually leads to marital stress. And so in looking at the albatrosses, they did find that reproductive stress does break up marriages in these birds. But they also found that when water temperatures increase, and they looked at a period of time from 2004 to 2019 in the Falkland Islands, looking at nearly 2,900 breeding attempts and 424 females. They looked at a bunch of bird breakups in these females. And they determined that in some years, the divorce rate was lower than 1%, and other years, they were like, divorces were happening all the time. But when the average water temperatures went up, reaching a maximum of about 7.7, they had this divorce rate of 7.7% in 2017 when the water temperatures were the highest. And so water temperatures lead to a change in phytoplankton availability, so fewer nutrients in general, and this can affect not just how much the birds themselves can eat and forage, but can lead to changes in how healthy they look. And so maybe your mate has gotten enough food for the children, for you, everything, but they come back and they look awful. And so the female on the nest is like, what? You look like you're sick. I can't hang out with you. No, we're done. And they might be making choices based on these environmental factors that aren't necessarily indicative of the ability to raise the young.
Yeah, and that's a great point, because this, like, if anybody has been complaining about the high gas prices, the supply chain disruption over the last couple of years, you can't get the present you want, it's hard to get a good enough sized turkey, that's what global warming is doing to every life form on the planet. Right?
Yes. So it's not just us being upset about these things. It's albatrosses are having marital strife as a result of these climate issues as well. And that's one of the big points of the study, is that as climate change continues, these environmental disruptions are going to occur, and they might lead to populations that are potentially already on the brink with a low birth rate falling apart, and the population's really declining because the breeding pairs will make poor breeding decisions because of the environmental stresses. They're going to break up, not breed, not find another mate potentially, and that's going to add to the downward spiral of some of these populations that are potentially on the edge to begin with.
I feel like the same thing happens with people.
Yeah.
Like they're not that different from a seabird when it comes to resources and the happiness of a relationship.
I like that. I liked how you brought that up, Justin, because that's really we're really not that
No.
different. We all just worry about how we're going to put food on the table. We're going to keep the lights on. What's going on around here?
I do wish I was as fabulous as an albatross, though.
Oh, they're
That
so
eye
beautiful.
makeup is just, it's perfect. They're just that little curve of the beak. If you are not watching and you are listening to this, I demand you stop what you're doing. If you're driving, you pull over.
Oh,
And
pull over.
you Google albatross and you look at Google Images right now and you tell me that they are not the most fabulous bird you've ever seen.
They're so beautiful. They're smooth feathers. They're so smooth.
good.
And yes, their eye lines. Yes. Gorgeous birds. Gorgeous birds. Where relationships are very important to them. And relationships are very important to us here. And I want everyone to live their best lives.
Done.
And so this Thanksgiving, this TWIS-Giving, our gift to you is to remind you not to do Thanks-taking, but to really do Thanksgiving. We want to remind you Thanksgiving is the reason for this holiday season here in the United States. And researchers at Ohio State University have published a study in brain behavior and immunity in which they looked at 1,054 participants in the National Survey of Midlife Development in the United States. They were healthy adults between 34 and 84 years of age, and they had to complete a questionnaire measuring social integration. So, were they married, living with somebody? How often do they talk with people? How often are they social and going to different events and activities? And they also completed answered questions responding to how much they thought they could rely on their family, friends, or spouse if they needed help. And the key to this is that they also asked how much they said they were available to support friends and family and spouses. 2 years later, they had them come back and take blood tests and test for an inflammatory marker, interleukin 6, IL-6. And they found that those individuals, when they controlled for all other factors, age and other inflammation issues, education, health behaviors, medications, etc., the individuals that offered social support to others had the lower levels of inflammation. So the take-home message from this is that it's not just having social circles and social connections that you think you can rely on, but it's also the giving and the back and forth support where you can support others, others can support you, and it's not just feeling like people are leaning on you all the time, but that there is a lot of support in all directions. They said this relationship was specifically found to exist more in women than in men, and that it may be more important from a social stress perspective for women to feel as though they could give support as well as take support.
I could see just knowing you have a support system reducing your stress.
Yeah.
Having an emotional safety net makes everything feel less terrible, I think.
It does. Yeah. And they're saying, the safety net has always, we've known it's been important. This is a little bit more nuanced to our understanding of that safety net, and willingness to give and receive social support. It is a safety net, and it's part of being part of a community. And for this Thanksgiving, this TWIS-Giving celebration, we hope that we are offering you good science and entertainment week after week so that you keep coming back. We hope that we support you in your curious pursuits.
You all certainly support us.
Yes, you definitely support us out there for sure. Yeah. But that's all I have. That's all she wrote for this TWIS-Giving episode. Anyone have anything else?
Mm-mm.
No?
Do that thing that Blair suggested. Look up your, what was it, Kiki? Somebody suggested, look up your local tribe, find out who they are.
Mhm.
Yes.
Send them some thanks.
Thanks to one and all. May you have the time and the space to take a moment of grace this TWIS-Giving. Thank you for listening. We hope that you enjoyed the show. Shout outs to Fada for helping with social media and show notes. Gord for manning the chat room, keeping things above board. ID4 for recording the show. Rachel for assisting and editing. And I would love to thank our amazing Patreon sponsors who do continue to support this show. Thank you for your giving. Thank you to Kent Northcote, Rick Loveman, Pierre Velazar, Ralphie Figueroa, John Ratnaswamy, Coral Kornfeld, Karen Tozzi, Woody M.S., Andre Bassett, Chris Wozniak, Dave Bunn, Vigard, Chefstad, Hal Snyder, Donathan Styles, a.k.a. Don Stylo, John Lee, Ali Coffin, Maddie Perrin, Gaurav Sharma, Don Munda, Stephen Albaran, Daryl Myshak, Stu Pollock, Andrew Swanson, Fredus 104, Sky Luke, Paul Ronovich, Kevin Reardon, Noodles Jack, Brian Carrington, Matt Bass, John and Nina Lamb, John McKee, Greg Riley, Mark Hessenflow, Gene Tellier, Steve Leisman, a.k.a. Zima, Ken Hayes, Howard Tan, Christopher Rappin, Dana Pearson, Richard, Brendan Minish, Johnny Gridley, Kevin Railsback, Rami Day, Flying Out, Christopher Dreyer, Artyom, Greg Briggs, John Atwood, Hey Arizona, support Aaron Lieberman for governor, Rudy Garcia, Dave Wilkinson, Rodney Lewis, Paul Mallory Sutter, Philip Shane, Kurt Larson, Craig Landon, Mountain Sloth, Jim Drapeau, Sarah Chavez, Sue Doster, Jason Olds, Dave Neighbor, Eric Knapp, E.O., Kevin Parachan, Aaron Luthen, Steve DeBell, Bob Calder, Marjorie, Paul Disney, David Simmerly, Patrick Pecoraro, Tony Steele, Ulysses Adkins, and Jason Roberts. Thank you for all of your support on Patreon. And if you are interested in supporting us on Patreon, you can head over to twis.org and click on the Patreon link. On next week's show,
we will be back broadcasting Wednesday, 8 p.m. Pacific time, or 5 a.m. Thursday morning, Central European time, live from our YouTube and Facebook channels and from twis.org/live.
Hey, do you want to listen to us as a podcast? Perhaps while you drive, just be sure to pull over when I tell you to Google image something. Don't do it while you're driving. But you can listen to us as a podcast so that you can do all that. You can do that wherever podcasts are found. Just search for This Week in Science. If you enjoyed the show, get your friends to subscribe as well.
For more information on anything you've heard here today, show notes, links to the stories we talked about will be available on our website, www.twis.org. And you can also sign up for a newsletter if that's your inclination.
Yes, you can also contact us directly. Email Kirsten at kirsten@thisweekinscience.com, Justin at twistminion@gmail.com, or me, Blair, at blairbaz@twis.org. Just be sure to put TWIS, TWIS in the subject line, or your email will be spam filtered into a honeycomb full of meat honey.
Oh, gosh. You can also hit us up on the Twitter, where we are at TWIS Science, at Dr. Kiki, at Jacksonfly, and at Blair's Menagerie. We love your feedback. If there's a topic you would like us to cover or address, a suggestion for an interview, a haiku that comes to you in the night, please let us know.
We'll be back here next week, and we hope you'll join us again for more great science news.
And if you learned anything from the show, remember,
it's all in your head. Happy TWIS-Giving. Nope. It doesn't want to go.
This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science, it's the end of the world, so I'm setting up shop, got my banner unfurled. It says the scientist is in, I'm gonna sell my advice, show them how to stop the robots with a simple device. I'll reverse global warming with a wave of my hand, and all it'll cost you is a couple of grand. 'Cause this week's science is coming your way. So everybody listen to what I say. I use the scientific method for all that it's worth, and I'll broadcast my opinion all over the earth. Cause it's This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 I've got one disclaimer, and it shouldn't be news, that what I say may not represent your views, but I've done the calculations and I've got a plan. If you listen to the science, you may just get understand that we're not trying to threaten your philosophy. We're just trying to save the world from jeopardy.
Look what's here. Look what's here. Look what's here. Look what's here. It's the after show.
I was like, why can't she hear me? I was muted.
Yeah, I know you were muted. What's going on?
How do they look? How do they look? Up close. Do they look good?
They do. The emu is one of my favorites.
Oh, yes. I like that one a lot.
Yes. People will have to get their calendars of your single line drawing art.
Yes.
Look at that mossy frog.
Mossy frog.
Look at that mossy frog. Calendars are here again. The art. And for those people who are Patreon supporters at higher levels, the original art for these is done. It's a very shiny, like the shininess doesn't come out as much in the art and the calendars I would like, but it's nice. It's still very silvery, but the original
very
is
one-dimensional.
Is more shiny. The original is multi-layered.
Yeah, I look forward to shipping those out. That'll be fun.
Yeah, the originals will be fun. Tawny Frogmouth, so cute. Tawny Frogmouth's one of my favorites also. We have all these great holidays, special science days in the calendar. Look at this snapping turtle. Oh, Justin's back.
The tawny frogmouth is like my favorite bird, I think. It's up there.
So good. Large mouth compared to the size of its head. That's my whole thing.
We got it at the Sacramento Zoo. Used to go see it there. Oh, I like it.
Giraffe. You get a calendar for a gift. Calendar for you.
Oh, wow.
That's a happy sound.
Oh, those are amazing.
Yeah. They're looking good. I love this guy.
Really amazing. What? How did you do that? It looks
Mylodon.
three-dimensional. It looks like one of those.
That's the painting I'm the most proud of, actually, is that one.
Wow. Yeah, that is incredible. Oh, well done, Blair.
Original
Really
art.
well done.
Well done, Blair. It's gorgeous.
Yeah.
And I put the
Another
extinct
calendar.
animal on September, like I always do, for Species Requiem Day on September 1st.
I love this one because there's a little bug over there. You have the velvet ant, but then it's like, I'm going to go eat that thing over there.
Yeah. Hey, Fred, just over here.
Over here. Oh, yeah. And then the leafy sea dragon.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, calendars,
Very cool.
everyone. They're here and they will be sent out
Excited.
soon. Yay! It's very exciting. Although I'm really weirded out by the fact that it's so close to 2022. What happened?
Yeah, the last 2 years barely exist.
I'm still writing 2020 on checks.
Wait, can I
Yeah.
see the cover again of the calendar? I just want to see. Oh, that's very cool too. Yeah. Nice. Nice. Yeah, I need a copy. You're gonna have to send it to the international mail.
That's going to take a while, but I will do that.
Well, take a while. What do you mean take a while? We live
Why are the leaves blue?
connected,
Hold on. Wait a minute.
What?
Grouchy Gamer, are you trying to
just
make a color
messing.
blindness joke?
Just
Oh, yeah.
messing with
Yeah.
Blair.
Sure.
Messing.
Okay, I gotta go. I gotta go.
I know Rick Loveman, who writes checks. I don't write checks. I'm kidding. It was a multi-layered joke that didn't fall well.
I gotta roll. I gotta roll out.
You have to roll out.
Yes, I gotta
okay,
roll out.
have a day.
But I will see the both of you next week.
Yes, I actually I will not be at the show on
Oh, guess what?
December.
I'm not gonna be here next week.
Oh, you're not?
No.
You're not gonna be here next week?
Very much not
Okay.
gonna be here next week.
Okay, well, I will be here. I will not be here on the 15th.
Okay. So I'm not gonna see you two next week. I'll see one of you the week after that.
No, you'll see both of us the week after that.
Oh, wait a minute.
15th is
Let me
very
look.
Maybe not.
Are you also not
Hold
going
on.
to
I
be
need
here
to
on
see
the
a calendar.
15th?
What's going?
Hey, you know what we should do? We should have a meeting where we figure things out. I feel
Probably
like,
a great idea.
We have some.
Oh, wait, December 1st.
Yeah,
That's a
we'll be
special
here.
day.
Yeah, we'll be here. Yeah.
Okay, got that. Okay,
Yeah,
got
that
it.
one's for sure.
Oh, is
That one
something
for sure.
planned for that day?
Maybe. We're
Justin
working
has
on the
something planned.
planning.
for
It's
that
it's
day.
potentially that's
No,
the day
it's that day.
we think
That's
it
the
might
day.
happen, or
No,
it's
that's
planned.
the day.
It's
That's the day.
scheduled.
That's
It's
the day.
scheduled. Okay, that's what I
Yes.
wasn't sure
Yeah.
about.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
Okay, and then there's the 8th, and then
Still
there's
some
the
planning
15th,
involved, but yeah.
and then there's the 22nd.
Which we have off.
I'll be here. That's
The
the Justin
22nd
only
is
show.
no show.
That's the Justin only
No?
show. I think that's the one I'm still doing TWIS the 22nd. Pretty
Oh,
sure it's-
awesome!
We give ourselves one off.
I
year.
know.
But why that one? That's a weird day to have off.
It was the one closest based on like
day before the day before the day before. This doesn't make any sense.
just picking one. Was it like the 22nd or the 29th? Which
I
made
think
more
we
sense?
agreed for the next year, not for this time.
We picked
last
this
year for
last
this year.
Yeah, for this year when I made the calendars. This is what we do every year. When we make the calendars, we pick the day.
Oh, that was
So
good.
yeah. But anyway, I will not be here on the 15th.
No Blair. Okay, no Justin next Wednesday.
Right.
No Blair on the 15th. And Justin, you're like,
I'll just do the show by myself if I have to, but I think you guys will show up. I'm pretty sure you will.
No.
I think you guys will be like, yeah, I don't.
There's
really have
nothing wrong
anything
with having
going
a
on.
week off for our listeners as well.
Yeah, they
They're all
don't want
busy.
it. Let's do a poll. If most of our
JG says a
listen,
Justin only show.
Boy.
let me
Sure,
just
have
say
fun.
this: if we do a poll and most of our audience wants us to take a week off, we need to stop doing the show. That's really.
There's nothing
That would
wrong
be
with
the
taking a week
sign.
off. All podcasts take weeks off. All of them.
It's true.
All
Yeah,
of them
but-
do.
No, all of the other ones do.
Yeah, the reputable ones with
What do you mean
sponsors.
Oh, yeah. Again, the reputable ones do. We don't have that option, Blair, until we become reputable.
I'm taking that option.
Anthony doesn't yet. See, look at everyone says no time
No
off.
time off. Thank you very much. No time off.
I'm taking that option for my mental health. Goodbye.
Yeah. And the 15th. You're going to just keep taking those days. Yep, doesn't find it. But I'll still try to be here. It'll be
Well,
the
just
first
let me
time I
know.
ran
I
You're
mean,
not
you
gonna
know,
be. You're not
there's
gonna
a
be on the
thing
show
called-
all month next month, Justin.
What are you talking
Come on.
about?
Yeah,
I'm here all the time.
he's gonna be
No.
taking some time off.
Taking
And
off.
we're gonna be. I'll be finding some interesting guest hosts.
For the 22nd. That would probably be helpful.
No, not for the 22nd.
Justin, you have a reason to take that week off. You should take it.
The 22nd?
Yes.
No, there's nothing going on the 22nd.
There's nothing going on in your life that might require you to take some time. No.
On the
Okay.
22nd of December?
In January.
Oh, you're saying January?
Oh, I thought you were saying December 1st.
There's something
you got
else
the wrong
happening.
day. You got the wrong
Okay.
day, Blair. It's not.
There's
Oh,
something
that's
else
what's
happening
on
December
December 1st.
1st.
Okay, got
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, you won't see me anymore after next year. I'll be gone forever. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's what I thought was and then I was confused. Yes, you're going to be taking some time in January. Okay.
Maybe not.
You're insane.
I don't know
Yeah.
how things work. But I'm all for
Get
no
your
time
roommate
off.
on the phone, huh? See how she feels about it.
Let's see how she feels about these things.
I'm gonna have myself a new co-host.
Send an episode back from the future. Exactly. We'll
I mean, we
we'll
could
do a
definitely do
replay of the TWIS DTNS crossover episode
Yeah.
because that one was awesome.
Was it?
We'll do
But
a
was it
replay.
really? Was it
know-
really awesome?
I'm not.
I
I'm
remember
not.
being completely jet lagged for that one.
I thought
Like,
it was a
just
great
got off a
episode.
plane.
Personally.
Okay.
I'm not fishing.
The
for
UFO is
anything.
not taking me home to the home planet, but I am having visitors from the home planet.
Okay.
All right. We know how to use calendars. We know how to use messaging systems like the texts and like the emails. Yes?
Yeah, should do
We
some
can
of
do
those
things
to
things.
figure out the things. I gotta go though. I gotta go. I got a
Hold on.
busy thing.
I had to sneeze.
Mhm.
I
I was
gotta-
just trying to advertise the fact that this January will mark 10 years
10 years of Blair.
for me being on the show.
Wow.
A decade of Blair.
Yeah, we're gonna have a 10-year
Oh,
Blair
man.
anniversary.
I
10
need somebody to
years.
go through and get like video clips of Blair and do a montage.
I would love to just see a montage of the Blair's Animal Corner introductions. Just
How they changed.
no, it's not so much the change. It's just it would just be a constant string of invertebrate sex and abject horror.
Oh, you mean like teasers?
The teasers.
You want-
I just
yeah,
want.
teaser,
I just
teaser,
want to.
teaser.
Yeah. I don't. It's the whole thing is too long. But if you do
Yeah.
just a montage of just like a 4-hour teaser of Blair Animal Corner,
Mhm.
it would be amazing.
It could be really good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Grouchy Gamer, you remember voting sort of to keep Blair
What?
around?
Oh yeah, you took a week off for mental health or whatever the heck you said it was for, and then we had a vote on
We had a
live
vote.
on air whether or
Oh,
not
okay.
we should bring you back.
Uh-huh.
But that I think that was just earlier this year. Wasn't that just like a month ago? I
right.
don't think it
Yeah.
was that long ago.
Yeah.
Mhm.
When is the 10-year anniversary of the 24-hour stream? That was like, it was a 21-hour stream.
Yeah, it was December 2012.
Oh.
So next year.
2012. Oh, so next year is the 10-year anniversary of
okay.
that. Oh, wow.
10 years after the end of the world.
I
See
would
how
suggest
things-
that we do it again, except I'm much more tired now
Yeah.
as a person. Ah.
I think I'd have a much better run if I was doing it from here. Because then
You
it's
think?
starting at 5 in the morning.
Yeah.
It would be a lot easier to do a 21-hour show than
Yeah.
it was for starting it at like 8 o'clock at night. That was a hard starting point to begin with for
Yeah.
a marathon
didn't
show.
We
To
didn't
start at
start at
night?
8 o'clock at night. We
When did we
didn't.
start it?
No,
Did we?
you didn't, because we started when it was nighttime for me. and I was in Israel,
I feel
so
like it was nighttime.
I
for
was
me,
10
too.
hours ahead.
No, it was like in the morning
Yeah.
because
No,
Was it
I
like
It
9 or
some
10
parts
a.m.?
of the show it was in the
because
morning.
it ended at like 7 or 8 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
It
Mhm.
ended or like 9 or something like that. So we started at like noon or
Yeah.
10 or noon the day
we?
on one day, and yeah. Oh yeah.
So when did I start drinking? 'Cause I
Right
felt
away.
like it assumed it was at night.
No, I don't remember. Oh, Anthony, yeah, you made an ad for it. What time did we start? I don't remember. Are we doing a 24-hour New Year's show this year? No.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Not this year. No. Oh, I did do a dirty cell phone test, but not on yeah, my cell phone was dirty.
Say
I grew
goodnight, Justin.
bacteria. I grew
Good night, Justin.
bacteria. That was
I
a
gotta
long
go.
time
I'll see you
ago.
guys. When is
You have to go. Okay.
Good night,
Have fun, Kiki.
Justin.
Good
Good
night.
Good night, Blair.
Good
Good
night,
night,
Blair.
morning, Justin. Wait, okay, so
Night,
okay,
Kiki.
Blair wants to go to
Kiki.
bed also, so we gotta go. We gotta go. Everybody's gotta go because it's TWIS-Giving and because tomorrow is the Thanksgiving and
Yes.
people have to go do things. So say the thing, Justin.
Say goodnight, Blair.
Good night, Blair. Say good night, Justin.
Good night, Justin.
Good morning, Justin. Kind of good
Good
night,
morning.
Justin.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Good night.
Night, Kiki.
Kiki.
Good night, everyone. Thank you for joining us again. We hope that you have a wonderful, wonderful week. Great Thanksgiving if you're celebrating it in the United States. Happy TWIS-Giving and many, many more. We'll see you next week. Take care. Be safe, everyone. Stay curious.